Hello, everyone, and welcome to another edition of Happenings in the Dearborn Public Schools. I'm David Mustonen, Director of Communications for the Dearborn Public Schools. Well, it's that time of year again. Cold weather's upon us, and of course, with cold weather comes, yes, that's right, snow. And you know, anytime we have to close schools here in Dearborn because of snow or cold weather, we get a lot of phone calls. Lots of phone calls. People saying, why did you close school? How come you didn't close school earlier? Why did you close school at all? When I was a kid, we walked 4 miles both ways uphill, barefoot in the snow. And we still had snow, and we still had school. Well, you know what? Times have changed. But we still are very, very cautious about when we are closing schools. And to answer all those in-depth questions and all those mysteries of how schools are closed, we've brought here a panel of experts. Dr. Maleyko, thank you for joining us.
Thank you, as always. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
David, you know, one thing I wanted to mention, I think I solved all the problem. Did you hear when I interviewed for the board a year and a half ago and I said I totally eliminated snow days?
I recall that. Yeah. I recall. That was a very simple
So we're
solution.
done.
That's it. Show's over. We're done. We're not going to have any more snow days.
Of course, I'm kidding. I'm kidding, of course. But, you know, that was when I did get interviewed before the Board of Education. It was one of the questions where I kind of had a little fun with. It wasn't specific to snow days, but what happened was the board asked me, what is your greatest fear or challenge of becoming potentially a superintendent? Snow day. Calling the snow day. It is a pressure-packed situation, and there are a lot of people watching. And like you said, people have different views on the issue. And so I'm glad we have some of our experts here. Mr. Jeff Burek, who's been Director of Operations for many years. He's currently an Operations Consultant Director. And Mr. Don Ball, Director of Maintenance and Security. So we're happy to have them here to join us and explain the process.
That's right. Well, yeah, let's get right into this and how everything starts, I guess.
So the last year and a half, we've had a few situations, and I have not had a lot. The weather has been fairly mild overall. You know, from time to time, it can be worse, and you know, but situations can occur unexpected. For example, you know, one night we had a lot of wind and rain, and you know, at 11 o'clock, it starts really with Mr. Don Ball making a phone call to me any time of the day, night, morning, whatever it might be, and Don, you know, might alert me to some situation in the district. So, for example, we had a situation where maybe it's not the whole district, it might just be isolated to a few buildings, and so Don, I know we had a situation, example would be, you know, Etzel and ASC, at one point we thought they were going to be potentially shut down. So what happened from your end when that first started?
We get notified by the building engineer that they don't have any power. We contact Detroit Edison, we tell them we have no power at 2 locations. And then we follow that call up with the service rep that we have contact with from DTE Energy and tell them basically this is where we don't have power right now. And then he moves forward from there.
And I know, Don, when that example occurred, you know, I got the call around 11. We were texting a little bit. After that, then I'm informing the board, I'm informing the executive cabinet, there's a potential, you're emailing everyone to make sure there's a potential for closing. Right. Obviously, we want to keep the school open. We are not, unless there's a safety issue, we're not going to shut down. So then between you and I, it's okay, by 4 a.m., we're going to make a decision whether the power, you know, we set our alarms, we make sure, I know you might be up, you're calling DTE, and then by 4:30, getting into 5. I think once we get around 6 o'clock, and Jeff, I know in your experience over the years of closing school closures, I mean, 6 o'clock, around 6 o'clock is kind of the time, right?
6 o'clock's getting a little late. When our buses and transportation, they have to start rolling and get, you know, pick up for the first tier. So really, we like to make that call by 5:30. That's kind of a drop dead date or time that we're going to want to make that. But over the years, I've been doing this for 17 years, and you just never know. So with a snow date, you basically want to get up and start looking. We prepare the crews the night before. They get a good night's sleep. With so many inches, let's say if they're predicting 6 to 8 inches, I'll get up and start, you know, looking out the window at 9, 10 o'clock at night. And, you know, when it starts to get about 3 or 4 inches, we call the crews in. And they'll start plowing all night. And then we go out and monitor it, you know. And again, we want to make things safe for the kids or the students and staff to be able to get into school. So there's a lot that goes into it. You drive around, you check the streets. Buses, they can go through a lot of snow, but you know, vehicles are a little bit different. We have to take into the consideration of the surrounding districts too. We have transportation going to other districts. Can we meet that? Are those districts open? So we have to take all this into consideration when we make the call. And then, I'll call you. We're in constant communications through the evenings. And again, by 4 o'clock, we'll call and tell you, do we think we can get the schools open? Our priorities are always the parking lots, sidewalks. And then after that, during the day, we'll get the blacktops so the kids, if they have a chance to get out for recess and things like that. But again, there's a lot that goes into calling us. It's not just a...
Well, and then I know, Glenn, you're involved as well in talking with some other superintendents when we're having some kind of snow, forecast of snow or whatever, and the snow is actually falling. I know you're talking with other superintendents as well, aren't you?
Sure. So, like an example, we had one situation during the year that occurred, and it was a mild year, but we had a snow day call. And that happened to be my first one that was called. And what was happening was I was on the phone with Mr. Burek. Mr. Ball is now taking over, but at that time, my first snow day call, which now, once you do get that first, I've said it before, but you feel like an official superintendent once you make the call. You've got to get that under your belt, that rate of passage. And so really, there's a lot of communication. And so, I've got students on Twitter saying to me, oh, just call the day off. Don't you want a day off? Oh, it's safe conditions, those things.
Right.
But actually, it's a lot more work for us. It really is, because we're constantly in communication. I'm communicating with Mr. Burek, with Jeff. I'm on a network with county superintendents. We're monitoring the weather. Jeff's monitoring the weather, the road conditions. I'm also communicating with you, because as soon as we make that decision, we have to know, well, what is the alert that's going to go out? What schools are closed? How is the message going to go out with our robocall systems, other things?
Sure.
The nice thing, though, is that with the other superintendents is that we have an email or a conference call network. So I get up-to-date information right away as soon as districts are making that decision. I would say last year, when my first snow day came, we were one of the we were one of the last schools to call it.
Right.
But in all honesty, I was talking to Jeff that night, and it was like 9 o'clock at night, 9 p.m., 9:30,
Right.
and there was literally no snow on the ground in Dearborn.
Sure.
Now, there was a lot of schools going down because the forecast was calling for it. Most of the snow actually hit in Oakland County. It missed us.
That's correct.
We probably could have, you could have looked at it, could you have got, yes, but you would have had staffing issues.
Sure.
Because you had people that would have had trouble getting in. So we made a decision, again, for student safety. Student safety is number one. That's why we're constantly communicating. And, so the decision was made, I think, around 10 o'clock, maybe 10:30, which is still fairly early. Like, we'll wait. If we need to, though, we'll wait till 6, because our objective is to keep the school open unless there's a safety issue.
Right, and sometimes they are predicting 8 to 10 inches in the morning, and like Dr. Maleyko says, if it hits above 8 Mile or something, and we only get 2 or 3 inches, well, it's difficult to make that call then.
I think one of the biggest myths that's out there, at least the calls and the remarks on social media that we get is, oh, there's Dearborn waiting for Livonia, then you'll close. Oh, there's Dearborn waiting for Detroit, then you'll close. Oh, come on, Dearborn, Detroit close, you close. We don't wait for we're not waiting for somebody else and then that's going to make our determination. The decision to close, as being discussed here, there are many, many factors that are going in that decision to close. It may be a coincidence that we close right after Livonia or just before Livonia or whatever district, I'm just using it as an example, but it's not based on what other districts are doing. It's based on what other districts are doing, the conditions here, the safety of students. There are a lot of factors that are going into this
it's not an
decision.
auction and it's not a Survivor. It's not like we want to be the last one on the island. We are looking at the best interests of students, which is in our vision.
Sure.
And so that's the main priority. Again, academics, education, we want students in school. But when it comes down to it, if there's a safety issue, we won't hesitate. Right. We've had some other situations, and I know that earlier in the one example might be, for example, we had Howard Elementary. The power went out. The conditions were fairly mild outside. I think they were in the 60s, maybe 70 degrees. So there was no issue as far as heating goes or any safety. Now the only question is the lighting. Well, the lighting in the classrooms were fine due to the sunlight coming in.
Sure.
So the only issue would be some of the hallways and maybe bathrooms. So myself and Mr. Grzinski actually went over there and we delivered flashlights to the school. We kept the school open, and we could have shut it down potentially because there were some people who are going to close. Well, we kept it open, but we did notify the parents via robocall that if they wanted to come, which you sent out,
Sure.
that you could come and pick up your kids. Your children are safe.
Right.
We're going to continue with school.
Right.
There's no safety issue. We can continue with school. We can
Right.
serve lunch.
Sure.
We were able to bring lunch in from another school. Guess what? By a half hour after I got there, the power was back on. So had we shut down, we would have lost over half a day of instruction for the students, and we would also have created inconvenience for the parents. So this way, we gave the parent an option. They could pick up their child they felt, but they're safe. We're going to continue with instruction. So our objective is to keep the school open, despite some of the tweets I get on Twitter. Although I will say, we've had fun with that in my advisory council. It's a way I think that we've outreached to social media and connected with students. And I did tell the students, I remember that my first snow day call at Fordson when I was with them, I said, no, there's no way. No way. I was wrong. Later on, we did get that snow day in. But again, the main thing is it's not just having fun. It's really student safety. That's what it comes down to.
Absolutely.
It's safety for the community, and that's why we make those decisions, whether or not we're going to stay open or close. People think, okay, you're going to have a day off. Well, no, actually, we're working that day normally. Now, if we can't get into work, we might be working from home. But in most cases, we're coming in, we're fielding phone calls, we're making sure people are safe. I know the operations department is probably doing double the duty, right?
Yep.
Gentlemen, what would you do to get things ready? We call a snow day, but then the next day, we're worried about the next day. I know one year we had, when Mr. Wisdom was superintendent still, we had like 3 days in a row because it was safety issues.
Well, again, we will prioritize, first of all, parking lots and sidewalks, and then we get that cleared. And even a site of vision, people don't think you pile the snow up, around the driveways. Well, we have to get that cleared if it's a heavy snow. So we'll be moving that for the next day or so. And then, again, recess areas, blacktops, so the kids have some recess areas to go out and play. We're constantly working around the clock just about to move all that snow. And it's a lot of work.
And I know we also practice from our executive cabinet, and that's the leadership of the district, and we've gone over procedures. So we have emergency protocol in place, and Don, I know that's where you come in. And so let's say we have procedures in place too, like let's say for some reason you're not available. We have Mr. Tom Wall, executive director, as backup. We have another backup in Mr. Gruzinski now.
Right.
Maybe for some reason I'm not available. It's an emergency. We can't anticipate. We have to have backup plans. So we have Dr. Chokol, who would be my backup, or another executive director. David, you have a backup as well.
Absolutely, yeah.
Because
To make the calls,
to make the
if I'm unavailable, yeah. Yep.
So I want to turn that. I'm going to ask you a question. Actually, I'm going to turn it on you a little bit here.
All right.
So the decision to use robocall versus email. What is that process in getting that information out?
Good. Yeah, that is a good question, Glenn. A lot of it has to do with time of day. If we are going to, if you make that decision to close schools, let's say the night before, and it's 1:30 in the morning, I'm not going to do a robocall at 1:30 in the morning. It'll be an email. It'll be out on social media. I'll alert all the local media. It'll be on our website. It'll be on our cable channel. So there's a lot of outlets that we get the message out. And then maybe in the morning we would do a robocall. We're not going to do a robocall, like I said, if it's the middle of the night. We usually will wait till the morning. Now, we will make robocalls at 5:30 in the morning because our high school students, some high school students are already here. I know we've heard from our swim teams who say they're here at 5 in the morning already swimming. So even 5 in the morning is too late for them. But we will make robocalls at 5:30 in the morning. We will make robocalls at night up to probably about 10:30 at night. But otherwise, if it gets later than that, then we won't go with the robocall. We'll just do the email and all the other social media and local broadcast media.
Okay. Well, and I wanted to mention with Don, I know we've had some other, thank you. See, I turned it on you a little bit there.
Wow.
But, we've had other unique situations too in the district where, one situation before Thanksgiving, we had 4 buildings without power and there was no heat and it was cold.
Yep.
So in that situation, we had to close schools.
Yes.
Because of safety issue.
Yes.
I think you made that call, and Jeff, you were part of that.
Right.
We've had other decisions, for example, at Hay, where we had some water backup. Well, in that case, we were able to kind of improvise a little so we don't inconvenience parents. Now, the instruction may not be exactly the same, but we kept the school open and we improvised. We've had another situation, I know, Jeff, you could maybe comment, the one at William Ford, where we had the water line leak.
Yeah, over the holidays, we had
Yes.
a freeze up, and that was over a weekend. but we were able to mobilize crews and isolate the building, move students out of some classrooms into the cafeteria or media center, and still able to have school. So we shut down part of the building. Again, safety is our concern, and but we were able to continue with school.
Yeah. And I think in one case, we actually kept the building open, but we canceled class for kindergarten because the kindergarten classes were knocked out. We didn't feel we could improvise. So we're going to try to keep the students in. We're going to try not to inconvenience parents, but we may have to make those decisions. And sometimes, Don, I mean, like last night, I didn't expect that, or whatever night it may be. Any night you may be calling me on a closure, I didn't expect that call to come in at 11 per se. It did. I could get one at 1 o'clock, right?
Yes.
I like hearing from you, Don, but we won't make it a habit of the 1 o'clock.
Hold off on those calls.
And I thought you were calling me about the hockey game or something, wings.
Well, I have to say that it's been informative, and I think just to kind of take some bottom line out of this, one, we don't make a snow day decision based on a forecast. We make it on actual conditions. There is a lot of communication going on between district staff who are right here in the district, working at the schools, determining what those weather conditions are. A lot of communication between superintendents as well. And building upon all of that communication and all of those factors, that's what goes in to making that final decision to close the schools. Ultimately, with the safety of students and staff is the ultimate goal. So that's kind of the bottom line here that we're looking at. I know it's always hard. It's never a sure thing. I think that forecast one sometimes is the one where parents and citizens will come back on us and say, they were calling for snow. You should have called it the night before. Why did you wait till 5 in the morning? Well, because we have to wait for those actual conditions to see what we want to do. Our goal is to have school. Our school, your students need to be right here in our schools learning. That's what we're here for. That's our jobs. And that's what we want to be doing. So as long as there is not a safety issue, we are going to be holding school. But sometimes, boy, don't we all like to have that little bonus day off. Thanks for joining us, everyone. We'll be back with more happenings in the Dearborn Public Schools.